Breathing in, I see the presence of my mother in every cell of my body. Breathing out, I smile to my mother in every cell of my body. Presence of mother in me, smiling to mother in me. Breathing in, I invite my mother in me to enjoy breathing in with me. Breathing out, I invite my mother in me to enjoy breathing out with me. Mother and me enjoy breathing in. Mother and me enjoy breathing out. Breathing in, I feel so light. Mother, do you feel as light as I do? Breathing out, I feel so free. Mother, do you feel as free as I do? Good morning, dear Sangha. Today is May the 8th in the year 2008. We are in Hanoi for our retreat, Engage Buddhism in the 21st century. There is a school of Buddhism called Vijnanavada, mind only. And that school of Buddhism studies our mind in depth. In fact, the name of the school should be Vishnapti only, Vishnapti Matra, manifestation only. And it should be translated as the school of manifestation only. There is only manifestation, there is no birth, no death. Vishnapti. Vishnapti means manifesting, manifestating, to manifest. Vishnapti Matra means only manifestation. You are not a creation, you are only a manifestation. There are things that have not manifested, and we may believe that they are not there, but that is not true. They are there, but they have not manifested, like the seed of anger in us. You are laughing, you are having a good time. We are not angry, but the seed of anger is always there. It has not manifested. So if someone comes and says something, does something, and then the seed of anger is touched, and it manifests as a mental formation, as anger. So everything is a manifestation. And manifestation from consciousness, from alaya vijnana, store consciousness. In the 30 verses on manifestation, the word vijnapti was used several times, maybe 4 times. But the word vijnana only was used only 1 time. So the translator of the 30 verses on Vijnapti Matrata, the Master Shunyang, he translated as Rituk Vijnana Vada, Vijnana Matra. But nowadays scholars would prefer the translation manifestation only, using the word Vijnapti as the original expression of the teaching. And we know that our person, composing of form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations and consciousness, they are manifestation. They lean on each other in order to manifest. And we know that before things manifest themselves, they can be seen, they can be conceived in the form of seeds, bijas, chủng tử. And when the seeds manifest themselves, when they become actual Dharma, actual Dharma may be a physical formation, may be a biological formation, may be a mental formation. So from the bija, we have the samskara. The samskara. A flower is a samskara, an actual manifestation from the seed. And my body is a samskara. And my compassion or my anger are also formations, samskara, chitta samskara. The teaching of the school of manifestation only can be applied easily in our daily life. In the context of family, school, and workplace. And that is a part of the practice of engaged Buddhism. When you love someone, you should have the time, enough time in order to look into that person and to recognize all the seeds within him or her, the seeds of suffering, the seed of happiness, and so on. If you have not seen all the seeds in him or in her, it's difficult for you to accept him, accept her, and to love him or her and make that person happy. You also have positive and negative seeds within yourself. And if the other wants to make you happy, she should know about the seeds in you, and she should know what seed to water every day, and what's it not to water. And yesterday we spoke about the 51 categories of seeds: positive, negative, and indeterminate. In a relationship, we should have the time enough to discuss with each other about the seeds in us. We may have seeds of suffering planted in us before we were born. Suppose a young couple who dispute for the first time, or make each other suffer for the first time after a few months of after the wedding. And the young lady is pregnant. The little child is not yet born. But what the young husband say or does will have an effect on the embryo. The anger, the frustration, the jealousy of the mother penetrate into the baby. So the seeds of suffering can be planted already when you are still in the womb of your mother. Everything the mother eats will go to the child. Every feeling of the mother has will go to the child. Every worry that the mother has will go to the child. And we nourish the baby in us with our feelings, our perceptions, our sorrow, our fear, our joy. And that is why the young father should be very careful. He should treat his wife in a very tender way. He has to be very careful in his way of speaking and acting. And that is to express love and care for his future son or daughter. I have a niece. When she knew that she was pregnant, she began to study and to recite the Lotus Sutra. Because she knew that what she learned about the Lotus Sutra will penetrate into the baby. So she wanted to nourish her child with the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, the Lotus Sutra. And her husband was also a practitioner, so they knew very well how to avoid planting the seed of suffering in the baby. Suppose the baby is born and was 3 years old and is 3 years old, and the baby does not know what the parents are telling each other. But if there is a dispute between husband and wife, if the husband make the wife suffer, if the wife responds to the husband with anger, and then the atmosphere will charge with that kind of heaviness, and that will penetrate into the body and the mind of the baby. Although the baby did not know exactly what was going on, but the suppressive atmosphere begin to penetrate into the body. That is not good food for the baby. And we know that there are children who suffer very much when their parents fight each other. There is no way to escape, and sometimes they had to go into the bathroom and lock the door. It's a tragedy. And the best thing we can give to our children is our own happiness. If father and mother know how to take care of each other, how to make the happiness of each other, and that is the most precious gift they can make to their children. That is the way young people used to think. The best kind of gift, the most precious kind of gift parents can make to their children is their own happiness. Not money, not house, not bank account, but their own happiness. In Buddhism, we learn that understanding is the foundation of love. If you don't understand someone, it's very difficult to accept him or her and to make him and her happy. So understanding is the foundation of love. If a father does not understand the son, the suffering, the difficulties, the deep aspiration of the son, how could that father love the son and make him happy? So understanding is love itself. A father can go to the son and say, "My dear son, do you think I understand you enough? You think I understand your difficulties, your suffering, your deep aspiration? I want to understand you in order to love you properly. In the past, I have imposed on you my ideas, my manners. I have made you unhappy. That is because I have not understood you. So could you please help me to understand you better? Tell me about your difficulties, your suffering, your deep aspiration, so that I will understand. I don't want to make you suffer, my son, my daughter. So please help me." And that is the kind of language called love and speech a father can adopt in order to open the heart of the son or the daughter. And if the father is sincere, his son or daughter will open their heart to him. And the son and the daughter can do the same. "Daddy, I know you have suffered a lot during the past. I did not help you. I wasn't able to help you, but I have made the situation worse. I have reacted angrily to you. I have challenged you. I have been stubborn because I did not understand your suffering, your difficulty. Daddy, I don't want to make you suffer at all. But because I did not understand your suffering, your difficulties, and that is why I have reacted like that. I have challenged you, defied you. I'm sorry. I want to understand you, to make you happy. So please tell me of your suffering, of your difficulties. If you don't help me, and then I cannot do that. Please, Father." So the son and the daughter can always speak to their father in that way. And if they are sincere, the father will tell them. And then communication will be restored. And this is something everyone can do, using loving speech and deep listening in order to listen. Because listening like that will bring about understanding, removing wrong perceptions. If we cannot talk to each other, if we cannot listen to each other, how could we help each other to remove wrong perceptions? And understanding become the basis of acceptance, forgiveness, and reconciliation. You go to your beloved one and look into her eyes and say, "Darling, do you think I understand you enough? Do you think I understand your suffering, your difficulties? If I don't, please help me. Help me to understand you so that I can love you the way I should to make you happy. And we have to get the time to look deeply, to listen deeply in order to understand the other person. Maybe that person has already received seeds of suffering before their birth or during their childhood. And if we don't understand, we continue to challenge, to blame. And if we understand, we can accept and we can help. And when we are in a relationship, we should practice looking deeply into ourselves and into the other person. And we could tell each other the willingness to practice. Darling, you know I have seeds of suffering in me, but I do have seeds of happiness in me. So if you really love me, don't water the seed of suffering in me. Please help water the seed of happiness in me every day. If you water the seed of jealousy, anger, frustration in me, I will suffer, and I will certainly make you suffer. I don't want to make you suffer, darling. So please be careful. You know I have these negative seeds in me. Refrain from watering them. I will be grateful. Instead, you water the positive seeds in me. And if I am happy, you will profit. And I promise that my practice is not to water the seed of suffering in me. And I will refrain from watering the seed of suffering in you. And we support each other in this relationship. So if the two people promise to each other to water only the positive seeds in each other and in themselves, and that is called a peace treaty or a love treaty that we can sign with each other. In Plum Village, we usually allow couple to come and sign a peace treaty, a love treaty in the presence of the whole Sangha. The Sangha witness to that commitment. And the practice is the practice of flower watering. Selective, the practice of selective watering. You know there are good seeds. You only water the good seeds. You refrain from watering the bad seeds in him, in her, and in yourself. The practice of selective watering. And if you practice it for a few days, you can see a big change already. 1 hour is enough to change the other person with the practice of selective watering. Because in him, in her, there are positive, wholesome seeds. And in the 51 categories of seeds, there are many, many good seeds. I have the seed of mindfulness, concentration, insight. And every one of us has the seed of mindfulness, concentration, insight, joy, lightness. And that is the capacity to be mindful, to be concentrated, to break through to reality, to get the insight for liberation. And that is we call Buddha nature. Buddha. Every one of us has Buddha nature. Buddha nature is not something abstract. It is very concrete. You have the capacity of being mindful. That's the Buddha nature. You can drink your tea mindfully. You can make a step mindfully. Therefore, you have Buddha nature. You can concentrate on your tea. You can enjoy your tea, the present moment. You can see the cloud in your cup of tea. That is the insight. You have the capacity of having insight. That is Buddha nature in you. And that is a conviction. That is something that you can experience by yourself. I have the nature of Buddha within me. I am confident that if I know how to allow that Buddha nature to manifest, to grow, and then love, happiness will be there for me and for the ones who are around me. There's a couple who lives in Paris. They are well-to-do people. They have a good job, good salary, beautiful house. But they are not happy. And he doesn't like to go home. He tried to stay as late as possible in his office. And after dinner, they used to go to the living room and watch television. In the beginning, they took a lot of pleasure looking at each other. And they was able to tell each other very sweet, nice things. They were very nourished by each other. But because they did not know the art of selective watering, that is why they have come to a very difficult situation. They don't enjoy looking at each other anymore. They are not able to talk to each other with that kind of language, very sweet, very loving anymore. And if they are in a situation to sit in the living room together, instead of looking at each other, they look at the television. And that is a tragedy. The French writer Antoine Saint-Exupéry, he wrote a sentence like this: to love each other is not just to sit there and look at each other, but to look together in one direction. He said something like that. Maybe he wanted to say that we should share the same kind of concern. We should have an ideal. But in this case, the couple, although looking in the same direction, do not have much in common. Because that direction is only the direction of the television. One day he telephoned and he said, he announced that he cannot go home because he has to go to New York for an important meeting. And she reacted normally because that is something very normal. Because if he goes home, nothing much will happen. So she accepted that and she said, oh, if you need to go, please go. Coolly like that. And the next morning, she was looking for a dress to go out. and she discovered the box of in which she kept the love letters that he had written to her before the wedding. Nowadays, people don't write on paper anymore. They write on the computer, and after that, after having read, they erase. But this lady has kept more than 45 love letters in a box of biscuit. You know, the Vietnamese love to keep the love letters in a box of lefèvre utile. And it had been a long time she did not look at that box. But that morning, we don't know why, she was interested. So instead of choosing a dress, she opened the box. And standing like that, she took one letter out and she read. The language in the letter was very sweet, very loving. And while she read that letter, she discovered the charming prince of the old day. In past 6 years, he has not been talking to her in that way. And while reading that letter, the seed of happiness and love in her was watered. It's like it has not been raining for a long time, and the earth is very dry. Now there is a thunderstorm, and the earth is absorbing the rain. So her mind is like that, very dry. And the seed of happiness, the seed of souvenir, joy and love had not been watered at all in many, many years. And while she was reading that letter, it was like her mind was receiving the rain of love. And she felt very pleasant. She felt she had a pleasant feeling during reading the letter. And then she decided to continue to read other letters. So she took the whole bunch of letters and she sat down on the table and she continued to read letter after letter, and she read more than 45 love letters in a row. And during that, a transformation took place. Because all the seeds of happiness and love, souvenir, were watered by the reading of the love letters. She did not intend to practice as a practitioner. She only wanted to read the love letters because it's a pleasure to read them. And after having read the letters, she felt a transformation in her. She saw that she had been unskillful, and he had been unskillful. They have not been able to water the seed of happiness in each other. In fact, they have only water the seed of irritation, anger in each other. And she, for the first time in many years, she wanted to talk to him about the happiness that they had experienced in the beginning of their love. And she wanted to write it down on a letter, a kind of love letter. So she took a piece of paper, she sat down and she wrote him a letter the way she used to write before they married. And during the time she wrote that letter, the seed of love, the seed of happiness in her was also water. They continued to be water. And she felt very peaceful, very happy. And she was able to write with the language of love. She practiced watering the good seeds, but she did not know that she practiced watering the good seeds. And after that, she put the letter into an envelope and went upstairs and put the letter on his desk. And she felt much better after reading and writing. That afternoon, he telephoned from New York. And he said, I cannot go home tomorrow. I have to stay for 1 or 2 more days. Actually, apparently, he was trying to stay in New York as long as possible. There's no joy to go home. But she responded with the language of love. She said that, well, it's okay if you need to stay, and then please stay. I can wait. And her way of talking is completely different, because the seeds of happiness and love in her had been watered. And he hung up. But a few hours later, suddenly he remembered that she was talking with a kind of language that he had not heard during many years. He noticed a change in her way of talking. And that watered the seed of happiness in him. Because in the last many years, she has never talked to him in that way, always with a lot of bitterness, sourness, blaming. So he arranged to go home as quickly as possible to offer a pleasant surprise to her. The next day when he arrived, he went up to his place and he saw the letter. He stayed there for a very long time. He was reading that letter. All the seeds of happiness and love that had been buried deeply in him was water. He stayed so many hours up there. And when he came down, he was completely transformed. And they reconciled very quickly. So this story proved that the practice of watering the seeds of happiness, the positive seed in each other, is possible, very effective, and can change your life overnight. If you look into yourself, you recognize the seeds of happiness, love, forgiveness, understanding. Joy. And if you look into the other person, you also see many positive seeds. And if you know how to water these seeds, you will transform that person, make him or her happy. You know that in the past you have watered the negative seeds in him or her, and that person was unhappy, and because she is unhappy, you cannot be a happy person. More than a decade ago, in the Upper Hamlet of Plum Village, there was one American practitioner who tried to write his mother a letter of love. The exercise given by Thich to the practitioners of the Upper Hamlet that day is to write a letter of love to your father and your mother. And in the letter, you try to find out, to identify the good seeds, the positive things about your father and your mother. You do walking meditation, you do sitting meditation, you look deeply into the person of your father, you look deeply into the person of your mother, and you recognize the good seeds in him or in her. And that American practitioner, he told himself, writing a love letter to his father, that's easy. He can see many good seeds of his father. He can see the virtues of his father in him. But for his mother, he believed that he may not be able to write a love letter to her because he had difficulty with his mother. But because it was an exercise, homework, as a practitioner, he had to sit down and do it. It came as a surprise. When you had when you had some difficulty with someone, the suffering you have tends to prevent you to see the whole picture. You allow one thing to cover up all the other things. But when you practice walking and sitting and looking deeply, you will discover. And while writing that letter to his mother, this American practitioner discovered so many positive things about his mother. And he recognized many good things in him have been transmitted to him by his mother. So during the time he wrote the letter, he rediscovered a wonderful mother. And his letter was really a letter of love. And he was very happy to post the letter to America.